Welcome back. A few months ago, Epic director Cesare Wright encouraged school kids to start their own clubs to fulfill their interest in a future career.
One of the things that I think a lot of students, and we've got a lot of kids in the audience today, and what I want y'all to take away is that school can be fun. You can find ways to do the things that matter to you and find a way to make them academic and meaningful. And one of the ways that I think is very low-hanging fruit is to create a club or a team.
In other words, learning can certainly take place outside of the traditional classroom. Microsoft helps kids combine education with entertainment. Microsoft Epic President Cesare Wright is still with us, and now joining us is Raamel Mitchell from Microsoft. Good morning. All right, and I want you to touch on, after you were on the show, a lot of people reached out to you and started saying, okay, we want to start clubs for our kids, and kids that were saying, I want to start a club, because it's not really in the classroom what they were talking about on some things, robotics teams, stuff like that.
Right, so after the show, I was really encouraged. Several school districts reached out, Spring ISD being one of them, that want to create a club and team contest for all of their 7th grade through high school, to encourage the kids to find something they're interested in, whether it's a robotics club or, with Henner in the last day, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club, whatever it is, and use that to connect to academics and gain valuable experience that can be that differentiator in higher education.
All right, Elon Musk recently said, he goes, I'm not necessarily looking for the college graduate or even a high school graduate, I'm looking for bright minds first. You know, and so sometimes we can squeeze down and shut down a free thinker, as I was talking about a little bit earlier. And so this is where we kind of combine both those things to make sure we get the best out of everybody and recognize the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things with Epic and a number of the programs that we're driving is that there's this concept that you're not just learning in a classroom. You just mentioned it a few moments ago. Your learning includes everything that you're doing out. And so the Epic Team Winners, that's a great example here, where they took an idea, they built something based on what they've seen. And that outside experience, that free thinking experience, if you will, is an opportunity for them to create, to grow skills, and those skills, that creativity, the ability to problem solve, those are all necessary to succeed and thrive in any company.
That's what built the multi-billion-dollar company called Microsoft, as we know. How did this whole idea of Epic to reach out, how did that come about?
You know, we've been working with Cesar for quite some time. We started with the drone program when he was at Rice. We have done a number of Youth Spark programs together, a number of drone camps, Microsoft Drone Camp. And it was a combination of working with Cesar and working also with Carla Waring and Jennifer Friedman, who are at Microsoft. And when we're looking at this program, they really saw an opportunity to say, you know what, there is a problem, there's a gap where we could address, one, how students are actually taking those skill sets that they're learning maybe elsewhere and applying that through science, learning about AI, learning about machine learning, learning about digital ethics.
Learning how to communicate.
Learning how to communicate.
Because, you know, a lot of times it's interesting because Microsoft does a number of things, like even in the mall where you can go to the store and you'll learn about coding. Because those games they play, it didn't happen by accident, right? There's a lot of work that goes into that. And that's one of the things that you did, Cesar, even for executives, you made them play video games. And as a parent, I was concerned about my son playing at one point, but as an only child, I would hear him in the room and he'd be going, all right, guys, look, we're gonna go in the back way and we're gonna shock them, okay? So, but he was leading a team. So there are things that happen when you even play video games.
Yeah, video games are an amazing way to acculturate students to the teamwork and leadership skills, risk management, working with limited resources, limited time to execute and achieve a goal under conditions of uncertainty. If you ask any employer, they'll say, those are skills I value. And kids are learning those when they're playing multiplayer online games. So I'm a huge proponent.
Yeah, all right. I want to, if you don't mind sharing, I've known you for many years, and I just always knew you as basically you were an intern at one point, but then you were Cesar, the professor at Rice University. Like, it's pretty cool, right? That's not where you started out.
No. So I grew up in a trailer in Cut and Shoot, Texas. Nobody in my family had been to college. I sort of didn't understand how college worked. And I actually went into the Navy at 16.
You dropped out of school.
Yeah, essentially. So I went into the Navy in a special program called Die Fair when I was 16. It was intended to be a direct-to-SEALs program. I ended up injuring my knee during training, and I came back as essentially a 17-year-old high school dropout. I worked at a concrete company. My job was to carry 100-pound sacks of concrete up and down a ladder, dump them in a silo for 10 hours a day. While I was doing that, I went to community college, got my GED, took a few classes, and then applied to Rice, which I think they sort of let me in as a joke to see. It was like one of those old
Rodney they recognized a bright mind.
One of those old Rodney Dangerfield movies from the 80s. Let's see what happens if we let this guy into college. And it worked out really well. And so I hated school. When I was in school, I intentionally got thrown in detention every week because in detention I could read, I could do what I wanted to do, what I was interested in, and I was bored in the classroom. But once I got to college, I finished 6 degrees in 5 different fields. I love college. You can barely get me out.
Wow, wow. And then you took a different route.
Yeah, I took a slightly different route. But we finally ended up
same place here,
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I went to a high school that was focused on law. It was the Law Magnet High School in Dallas. And after that, I graduated from Tuskegee University. But in between there, I worked for Raytheon. Raytheon recruited me out of high school. I did some work in Nevada and some other locations, some really cool stuff. But I found this passion for technology, this passion that really says that technology can help to create a better world for communities and people around the world. And so at Microsoft, our mission is to empower people and organizations across the planet. And so, backgrounds like mine, backgrounds like Cesar and our entire team are so important so that we can really kind of bring these experiences to life and really go out and make an impact. So going to your question, how did EPIC come about? It was through that mission of how do we empower others.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned working your way up through school. I had 3 jobs when I was going to UT, so I didn't have time to get involved in any trouble because I was like, okay, where do I need to be next? So I had 3 jobs. You worked your way through college? Yeah,
so I worked actually at Fox 26 in Houston.
We don't mention that station here.
I'm sorry. I worked with the others.
Yes.
And at first I worked doing undercover investigations because the way I looked, they said, we can just let down your hair, we'll join a hippie cult one day, investigate that, we'll send you out to sell drugs the next day, whatever. And so I did that. I became a news editor. I worked my way through as a news editor and working with special projects.
Yeah, and you worked also?
I did. I worked both with Raytheon and Bechtel. I started a company when I was in school. I was a student, I was in undergrad, also the editor of the paper, president of student government, and so it was like multiple jobs.
And here's the reason why that's important. I graduated with no student debt, and we know today that's such a big problem. So when we come back, Anthony O'Neill, he's part of the Dave Ramsey team, is going to give parents some advice and students advice on helping to graduate debt-free. That's coming up when we get back.